All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So I think this is the first time I am starting this sector with OGI, but very, very much deserving of it. All right, so easy to focus on this 25% day, and I mean that's a big, big number, but I am loving what I'm seeing from the earnings. They beat earnings per share, they beat some revenue stuff. There was a little bit of a Trump boost as well. I think he said some stuff about Florida legalization. But lovely, lovely, and literally going from under all five moving averages the last, what, week and a half to all of a sudden closing above, right? So excited to talk about OGI. Tilray actually had some non-weed news. They made an acquisition today. I'll talk about that a bit, but really what I'm seeing is a very, very strong support on the 50 moving average. CGC, really kind of the same thing. I'm seeing support from the moving averages. I'm a little disappointed in ACB, I'll be honest. I thought that this was going to do significantly better. I am still liking this setup, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I actually thought ACB would be doing just a little bit better than it was. SNDL very quickly. Oh man, it was holding very well. That was the story of the 100 moving average. Clearly not as pretty as it has been, but hey, it's at least still holding it, right? So I'll talk about that. High tide, man, I am glad we started to make the curve. I talked about us maybe coming down, and it actually almost did, right? But good to see some moving averages being regained. And then if I have time, at least I'm kind of cover it here. MSOS still not the prettiest, and I would say is lagging from the bunch. All right, and the one thing I'm going to talk about, I always mention it, right? The Dow Jones, not the prettiest, but hey, it is an uptrend, right? It's actually been going up the last few days, and it is actually married with an uptrend on the S&P 500. So far so good, but really this one's clearly coming up to a test, and the Dow Jones could do a little better. And again, I'll talk about all that more shortly, but before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We're going to take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our five moving averages. There are horizontal, yeah, there's a bunch up here. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I am so grateful for it, all right? So OGI really dropped the hammer today with their earnings. I am loving what I'm seeing, all right? Something you hear me say all the time. I say it for big blue chips like Nvidia and Tesla. I say them for penny stocks. I say them for these as well, right? EPS, earnings per share, is arguably the most important thing in an earnings report. You can give a lot of good guidance, you can say a lot of good stuff, you can have revenue up, you can have operating costs down, whatever you might have. Earnings per share tends to dictate the up or down. And hey, OGI beat the market expectations for earnings per share. They sprinkle it on top with a beat of revenue as well. So gotta love that. And clearly the market said instead of being under all five moving averages for, I mean, my goodness, most of the last 2.5 weeks, we now close up here, right? So gotta love it, gotta love it, gotta love it. I think the one thing that's also catching my eye is today wasn't even the biggest volume day of the last few months, right? We clearly see a few higher volumes, even though we had some good earnings today. So I think that's actually a kind of a plus in my eyes. And then yeah, as I zoom out, really the one thing that I zoom out and just keep looking, I think I saw it on the weekly. Yeah, I saw it on the weekly. So there is just a lot of red, green. Like there are not too many horizontal plateaus, right? Like it's one of those things where OGI is starting to come in. Even on this daily, you can see it, right? A lot of red, a lot of green, a lot of red. I mean, this is a very fast moving stock. All right. The one thing though, I always say if you're gonna break multiple candles, let alone if you're gonna break all five on a single day, I need some monster confirmation. And really, I think that's kind of my bare minimum for tomorrow. I think I need to get to basically the top of this. Maybe we can call it the bottom of this, but I basically need tomorrow to close at least at 191. Truth be told, I would love like 194, 195. I think that's what I'm gonna need. It's a Not even that big a jump. In all honesty, I could have maybe even went with like this 197. Um, I think it's between 195 and 197. I think that's going to be my confirmation range. Again, all five were essentially, not even essentially, all five literally were broken today, right? So I will need that big confirmation, all right? The other thing to look at is volume, all right? So yesterday we were at a million. Today we go up to three-ish, right? So a 3x jump. 3x jump isn't that bad. It's obviously a very nice increase, right? But we've seen the silly of sillies when it goes up like 20x, 30x, and you look at that number and you think to yourself, that's going to be really hard to replicate tomorrow. I feel like this volume today gives us a shot at actually replicating it, not falling too much or even breaking it, all right? So look, the worst thing that could happen is we fall back down to 1 million. And if we're only going to get 1 million shares in a 7-hour day, look, if you're looking at about 150,000, right? I got to move the decimal over. If we're looking at like 150,000 shares in that first hour, oh man, I would be super worried, and I would actually start to believe that we're going to drop all the way down to like 170-ish, maybe 168, 167. I can see that being the low down, all right? What we really want is like, hey, let's, no pun intended, but 4.2 million shares. I think that's what we're going to want, a little bit more than 10% of today. Obviously, more would be even better, right? But I need about 4,200,000 shares in a 7-hour day. I need a lot closer to 600,000 in the first hour, not only 300,000 in the second hour, right? So big volume differences to make up for holding it, right? And that's what we're looking for. 600 the first hour, 1.2 million volume the second hour. I really want that close around 197. Let's call it 196, kind of that in between those ranges I gave. I really like the earnings. Generally speaking, when you have good earnings, you should be able to ride that for the next 3 months until the next earnings comes out. Last thing I mentioned at the beginning of the video, DJ30, Dow Jones Industrial. That's a decent uptrend. All right. I'm not going to get super excited until we can get over basically 40,000, right? Like that 20 moving average is, I think, yeah, look at that, $40,002, right? So I'm not going to get wildly excited, but I actually think that there's a real reason to believe we're going to come up to that 40,000, right? I can see us gaining another basically 400 bucks. I don't think that'd be illogical. That's a nice RSI. MACD's not horrible, and hey, volume's been good, and I talked about the uptrend, right? The one thing I can see though is us coming right back down to like 39.6. I for sure don't want to come back down to 39.5, right? Because we have been battling this 50 moving average on the Dow Jones, and I don't want to give that back up after a nice today, all right? I don't really know what the PPI info was. I know that came out today. I'm assuming it wasn't horrible since we saw that on the Dow Jones, right? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. OGI, first time I'm leading it off with this, but I think it was very much well deserved. All right. Let's come into Tilray next. And, I normally talk about weed only, but I actually like the liquor acquisition. All right. Look, in general, I'm a fan of vices. All right. Vices will always stay. People will find money for their addictions, all right? And I'm using the word addictions very loosely, right? I obviously, I wish no one's addicted to anything, and I don't blah, right? End of the day, we all know what life is around us, and hey, if people like to drink, they're gonna find money, right? If people like to smoke, they're gonna find the money for it, and vices always win. Vices are going to be around in a recession. Vices are going to do extremely well when we're not in a recession, right? So, yeah, to me, I like it. And hey, make your alcohol portfolio bigger. People will also assume that you're going to put some weed into that at some point, right? Like it's a good thing to keep growing, all right? Real quick, if you could subscribe, if you can share, it'd be much appreciated, all right? Outside of the news stuff, this to me really is nothing more than a technical hold of the 50 moving average. All right. One thing that I say often is when you have all five moving averages so tight, it's hard to escape and you just kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down. We've been living on the down a little too much, but yeah, all I'm seeing us is just living in these five moving averages. I really don't know what this is. My best explanation for this, because I've seen this a couple times on a couple different systems, sometimes when an option is filled, it can be really low. Sometimes, man, an employee might be filling some of their employee shares or something, and that might be like a really low fill, this and that, right? So I think that that's an irrelevant wick right there. I'm just kind of looking at the 50 moving average specifically, and really more than anything, all five moving averages. I'm really not liking that the eight moving average is coming down so steeply, but again, I think as long as we're still so tight, it's only so much. I mean, just look in the box over there, right? All of the lines are in an 11 or 12 cent window, right? The lowest one is basically $1.79. The highest one is $1.91, right? So like in that few cent window, all five lines, man, that's gonna be hard to escape. 201. I feel like, should I raise that 201? I feel like the better line would be 205. I'm gonna raise it to 205. I think that's our better line. I would want to, oh, 203. I'm cool with 203. I would want to break 203 before I touch Tilray. From there, let's trade a beautiful 30% plus trade all the way up to 270. I think that would be the best thing. Look, again, OGI giving good earnings. Dow Jones, DJ30, Dow Jones Industrial, holding an uptrend is nice. SPX, S&P 500, holding an uptrend is nice. Each of them still has one more moving average to get over. And man, it's not going to be easy to get over that last one. Even here, it is not going to be easy to get over that last one, right? So if it happens, my bullishness will go exponentially up. For now, I think they'll each get to that last line. I'm just watching to see what that reaction is going to look like, all right? Tilray. Let's look at the weekly before we call it a day right here. Again, I'm seeing a good amount of technical holds right now. I am, right? Like we're doing our best to maintain this 8. Looks like it's trying to get up over this 20. Is it going to get over the 50? Oh man, I don't know. And just look at this thing, right? Like this 50 moving average has been quite a battle to say the least. And oh man, yeah, it's tough. I don't think I personally, and we've been talking about it on the Discord for sure. Oh, literally, this is the last thing I said. I'm talking about the S&P 500. S&P 500 needs to break 5,475 before I get bullish. We're not in the, like this right here. Someone else used the word danger zone. It was my boy Xmas. Right now, this is going to be that danger zone. And if we can break up, oof, that'll be beautiful. If we can't and we end up losing that fifth, wow, I can't get that number out. 5,450 battle. I'm afraid that the downtrend is going to keep holding, right? Again, even if we wait for 203 on the weekly, a run to 230 is more than a 10% move. I like that 203 line. I think that's the best move. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think about that alcohol acquisition. Maybe you know what the craft breweries are, if they're good, if they're bad. Let me know your opinions on that, actually. But hey, I appreciate you so much. Come into CGC next. And again, I think it's kind of the same thoughts. Man, I probably should have clustered them because I'm about to literally repeat the same thing. I feel bad about that. But really, I'm seeing a good technical hold of a moving average right now. It happens to be the 200 moving average on this one. That is being compounded by the Dow Jones maintaining a nice uptrend, as well as the S&P 500. I don't flash the NASDAQ because, again, there's really not a lot of tech in this sector right now, right? The S&P 500 still needs to get over the 50 moving average. The DJI, Dow Jones Industrial, DJ30, that still needs to get over the 20 moving average. They each still have one moving average, and I'm not 1,000% if that's actually going to break, but I think it has. I think it has a real shot to at least get there. I just don't know, man. I'm telling you. Again, I normally use what I call the 1 and the 2. These are my personal stacks, slight differences between these. The thing that I look at, and it lets me know if there's some gas in the tank or not, I'm not seeing enough gas to make me believe it's strong enough to break the last moving average. But hey, I'm never here pretending to be right all the time and see everything, right? So I'm watching the battles with those last moving averages. That's basically going to dictate what happens here. Personally, I if you're not in yet, I would wait for 707, 708, 712 even, something like that. If you can get in there, I think there's a real nice shot of adding a little bit more than 10% all the way up to 8. Is it going to get over that $8 line, the last of the moving averages? Only if those indices behind it that I just talked about get over their last moving averages. All right, so I'm probably going to just lump this with Tilray. This was like a 2-minute review, and I do feel bad. Let's take no. You know what? Let's just combine it with ACB right here. So ACB, I actually very much thought was going to have a significantly better last 3 days. It's not a horrible last 3 days, but again, I for sure thought I was going to be better, and I actually thought it was because of this little back to back, right? So that was an interesting doji over the 5 moving averages. That was a beautiful confirmation candle that did confirm the doji. It did get us over this resistance. I'm a little bit shocked that we saw that this next day candle took us all the way down. I kind of try to blame it on like a loser Friday, whatnot, right? Today was good because today actually got us back to about 50% of this big candle. That's something you do hear me talking about all the time. We clearly kept maintaining staying over that 8 moving average. The 20 moving average is still up there as well, right? So I mean, look, as long as this is over the 8 and the 20, it is still bullish in my book. I for sure am a little bit surprised that we're under this 683 line, but yeah, again, if we can just get back over this, and really if we can break this candle, if we can get over 705, I think if we can start creeping into 706, 707, man, I am actually going to even set that alert. Let me give me a 707. I think getting into 707 might be a really hard train to stop from getting to at least 8. My next line is all the way up there at what, 940 almost, right? So ACB, I still like it. I'm not pretending I didn't expect this thing to do better, but yeah, RSI still looks good. MACD is still positive. They're both green over red. Volume did come down a little bit, right? I think that's the one thing that does suck a little bit, but um, just give me a little more volume, right? That's all I can really ask for. But yeah, this is a little disappointing to look at for sure. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's come into SNDL real quick. So SNDL, I was really liking SNDL because this thing was holding the 100 moving average, right? We were very much on the good side of it, right? There were some opinions about the SNDL earnings. Basically, I would call it neutral. If anyone else has any opinions on the SNDL earnings, please let me know. Honestly, I didn't look it up myself, but it was neutral. It is the easiest way of summarizing the comment that I saw. And this isn't that bad for neutral, I guess. But I think the one thing that's bothering me, I flashed it a little bit earlier. I'm not sure if you fast forwarded or not, but Dow Jones has been going up. SP500 has been going up, both of them since the 5th. SNDL, a little more flat than anything, right? Obviously, you can say that's happening, but really, this day actually closes up here, right? We open down here, but we actually close all the way up here, and that's essentially the exact horizontal line, right? So I think the neutral comment does reflect this chart pretty well. I just think, when the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones are both doing a little bit of a nice uptrend, you would kind of want this thing to do as well, right? So maybe it was a little on the not the best than it was neutral. But I think the one thing I would say is let's look at CGC, right? I guess you can actually say CGC was also a little bit on the flat side too. CGC was bad earnings. I think that was the common agreement with everyone, right? So maybe SNDL was a little closer to the bad earnings side because that actually almost looks a little bit mirrored of that SNDL, sorry, of that CGC chart I just flashed from. So, yeah, I really wouldn't. I'm actually gonna lift this. Let's take that to there. I would wait till $2.27. Get me over this 722 candle. And just as I zoom out, yeah, I like that. That takes us to the bottom of that, almost half of that. I like that. I like that line. Cool. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, we're rounding into the 20-minute mark. Let's end this with high tide. Man, high tide. Look at this thing, right? So we have made. I'm just looking at this thing, trying to think as I speak, right? So, a couple things are coming to my mind. Number one, I love this candle. right? You can see it now. Yeah, the close of the day was $1.97. That's the green number on top. The high of the day was $1.97. I like that, right? I like when the high of the day is the close of the day. To me, that signals people were just buying and buying and buying, and the market basically said, hey, go home and come back tomorrow if you want to buy some more, right? That's a good thing. I like seeing the green over red on the MACD and the RSI. I do wish that the MACD was positive, but hey, we didn't slip too negative on the MACD, which is a decent thing, right? Because I can zoom out real quick. Oh, I guess we haven't really for a good while. Nice. Okay, cool. I'll take that back. But yeah, nonetheless, we maintained a decent MACD slip. I'll say that, right? This is a nice little channel. You can see I actually had a little resistance line right here, right? If we can get over this line, I think there's a real easy reason to believe we'll come up to 211, right? This is red, 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 red. Could be a nice green, 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 green. I think the same echoing comment I said on CGC and SNDL. The only way I'm gonna believe we're gonna get over these two moving averages is if the Dow Jones gets over its last moving average and the S&P 500 gets over its last moving average. All right. Both of these indices are a little bit closer to the last line than high tide is, right? So those should happen and these should follow, or those will not. And I think this will follow and not as well, right? So I would be looking at the two indices on its own. This isn't a bad chart. If we were to not confirm tomorrow, I can see us coming back down to 190. But really, I think the goal is to watch this come up to 211, hope the indices break, and then this thing follows. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so, so much.